Olá, bom dia a todos. Sejam
Hello,
todos.
good morning, everyone, and welcome to another event by Sebeds, this time in partnership with a great international coalition called Women in Business that gathers over 2,000 companies. And our goal today is to tell you a little bit about this international company, an international campaign called Waste to Zero, which is the United Nations campaign for climate change, which is going to happen in Glasgow from the next Sunday, October 31st. And our intention is to clarify doubts, tell you how Waste to Zero works and how we have these international partnerships related to the campaign. And today we're going to have an international participation of Lydia Elliott that is going to tell us specifically about two campaigns. And after we have this explanation, we're going to have cases from companies explaining their experiences of adhering to those campaigns, which are the campaigns that are accredited officially by the United Nations. We know that Sebeds have been working on climate campaigns since the beginning of the year, when we wrote a letter about climate neutrality in April to be delivered to the summit of Joe Biden. And at the opportunity, we defended that the Brazilian goal should be reaching that climate neutrality until 2050 and not until 2060, as we had in the last official MDC. Since then, we have been working on climate neutrality based on main pillars, which is fighting illegal deforestation. And we launched recently a big movement for the Amazon. We also launched a technical note related to the importance of regulating Article 6 from the Paris Agreement, defending the adoption of responsible adjustments in the negotiations. And we also have an important work related to the creation of a regular market of carbon in Brazil. And we have been working on the Bill 528 in the direction of creating this big regulated market in Brazil. We have high expectations and ambitions for COP. We will be there in person, and we will be contributing with the Brazilian government, with all the stakeholders that will come in contact with us. And now I'll pass the floor to Daniela Rerario, the representative of Waste to Zero. And Dani will tell us a little bit about what is this campaign, why is important to be in this campaign, and we will listen to the backstage of the campaign. Dani, the floor is yours, and have a great event.
Obrigada, Luana. Bom dia a todos e todas.
Thank you, Luana. Good morning, Lydia. I will speak in Portuguese. Thank you to the translators for the support. It's a pleasure to be with you today. And I would like to thank Sebeds and Women in Business for the invitation. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the campaigns, especially Waste to Zero. 2021 is a decisive year for climate action. And we are clear regarding the actions to reduce the climate change. And the Paris Agreement has been an historical moment. But we still know that there are some gaps to be fulfilled. This window of action has been closing, and the commitments in Paris didn't come close to a global action. In Paris, the governments agreed that the state actions are necessary to reach the goal. The federal governments cannot do anything by themselves. To connect the actions of the governments carried out by cities or investors, the nations decided to connect the representatives of high level regarding climate change. Under the leaderships of these high-level action champions, supported by the UN, we have Race to Zero, and I'm going to share my screen
PowerPoint
to show you the PowerPoint presentation, and you can then capture a little bit of what I'm speaking. Race to Zero talks about mitigation, and it has carbon in the center of the discussions. It is recognized by the specialists and gathers the leadership and the support of companies and investors for a healthier and more resilient recovery without emission of carbon, without threat to employment and sustainable development. Reducing in half the emissions until 2030 and reaching in a fair and just way the short-term commitments. The campaign collaborates with the set of initiatives that already existed before the campaign was formed, and they have mobilized independently the commitments that were presented here on the slide. We have 4 Ps: committing, pledging, and the number 1, planning, proceeding, and publishing. Taking immediate action, reporting the progress annually through these partners. And these 4 Ps are very important for the validation of the criteria of what we're building in this campaign that has little more than a year. To help understanding the complexity of this universe of actors, we have this slide that says join as an actor. So if you're a business, there are some examples for you highlighting the climate pledge and the climate hub, looking at small and medium-sized companies. And there are many specific initiatives per sector and per type of actor. So there's no excuse to not to join as an actor. This is a trend, and this is going to be accelerated exponentially. So we have Cities for Race to Zero and many initiatives from subnational governments. The objectives represent 68% of the GDP, and the Race to Zero objectives have 15% of the GDP. Just for you to understand, it's not everyone that's part of the Race to Zero. We are really able to obtain a higher level of quality and a snapshot of all of the commitments inside of this campaign. We have now almost 4,500 companies, 45 healthcare institutions with over $95 trillion. We have all of this information in our website. We can find there all of the institutions that are part of this initiative. Even during COVID-19 pandemic, the commitments almost doubled in 2020, with 5 times the number of financial institutions. We had an increase of 190% of the number of actors. We have a special highlight to the engagement of subnational institutions in Latin America, offering a unique opportunity of radical collaboration among different parties. This significant change was already ongoing, but it needed to be accelerated in all the areas of economy and society. It's important to have short-term advancement in all sectors of economy and to reach the transformations in the rhythm and in the scale that we need. So we need more alignment and collaboration to help this transformation. So the campaign created the 2030 breakthroughs. This document is also available in our website. So for you to take a look and understand which are the 2030 breakthroughs. This campaign places nature and environment in the center of its initiatives so that we can survive the climate tensions and we can thrive in spite of the climate tensions. The ocean, the forests, and the industry are all connected. 5 to 6% of the global income, only this percentage goes to climate issues today. And this has to change. Through these two campaigns, our goal is to accelerate the systemic transformation before COP, helping closing this ambition loop, help using COP to answer the red alert and accelerating this transformation as soon as possible. Glasgow is the first COP to put the real economy in the center of the agenda, and the governments have a key role in this intervention for the future. The climate intervention is already happening, and we need to inspire more transformation. The world has scientific knowledge to face these climate tensions. We need an ambitious climate transformation, and we need to find more robust, transparent, and verifiable metrics. The private sector has a key role, and we need entrepreneurial leaderships of all levels and sizes. This is a race for everybody. And we need to defend the climate policy within the governments. The companies have to understand where they're vulnerable and identify their needs of adaptation. We need collaboration, and we need to look at the value chain to be able to advance. Of course, we also need political will to identify the necessary changes. And an important point is to adapt with resilience, and we cannot do this without climate justice. Nobody is going to do anything alone, so we need extreme collaboration in order to achieve our goals. Restoring trust and solidarity have to be built with the most vulnerable countries. 2021 offers us the chance to renew collectivity and putting coordination in the middle of our discussion after the shock of the 2020 and the 2021 pandemic. If you already joined the campaigns, call your peers, call your competition, call the whole market to join the campaign. Engage your collaborators about the climate change, train your team about this topic, and also your councils, your advisory boards. If they're also on board, look at what you can do with your value chain. Start understanding this chain and how you can accelerate the process. And lastly, work sectorally and involve yourself in these specific campaigns related to the 2030 breakthrough. There's a lot to be done, and we need more success cases. Keep yourself informed with the positive narrative. This is what we can do, and inertia is our worst enemy. Contrary to the other races, either everybody wins or everybody loses. And those who are not part of the solution is part of the problem. Thank you very much.
Obrigada, Dani.
Thank you so much, Dani.
Esse grande chamado, né, esse grande alerta.
It was a great call, a great warning.
O setor empresarial
I
vai
know
estar
it's a call for action. The enterprise sector will be there, and you're one of the great partners in Brazil dialoguing. And I thank you because you're going tomorrow to Glasgow, and I know that your agenda is very busy, so it's a privilege to count on you in this event. Thank you so much. Now we are going to turn into English. I would like to introduce Elliot from Women Business, and we won't have Microsoft today because they had a last moment commitment, and so we're going to have zero carbon.
We have been partnered for a long time. I know it's a great challenge, and it's very important for us to understand what the campaigns are about, and I'm glad to have you here. Para que todos saibam, a Elliot vai ter 20 minutos para fazer essa exposição e depois
Elliot is going to have 20 minutes for her exposition, and she's going to conduct the moderation with both of the companies.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to talk to you all. I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit more about us at the Women Business Coalition. And I'll share my screen. There we go. Just to tell you a little bit more about what we do and set the scene of why I'm talking about these two initiatives. So the Women Business Coalition is a group of leading NGOs that work on business and climate change and policy. And we have what we call our ambition loop, which is really to catalyze business action and use that as evidence to advocate for change from governments and give governments the confidence to set their policies and to set ambitious policies. So really working to increase government ambition and business ambition and to make those two loop together to keep increasing ambition around climate change across the entire ecosystem. When I'm talking about us at Women Business Coalition, these are really some of the key areas we work on. We work around helping businesses of all sizes set their ambition, move to action, get involved in advocacy, and also be held accountable for the progress they're making in terms of lowering emissions and climate change and integrating climate change into their boards and governance. So today I'm going to be talking to you around the ambition piece, and these are the three initiatives that we support and work with that are part of the Race to Zero. And I'm going to be focusing on the Climate Pledge and the Sme Climate Hub. And really, I'm going to be telling you a bit about the benefits of those initiatives, the requirements for getting involved, how you would actually go about joining them, and then what you could expect after you join them. So just giving you some of the practical inputs around how these initiatives actually work. So I'll start off with the Climate Pledge. The Climate Pledge is a community of companies who are prepared to run the furthest and fastest. It's really around showing climate leadership. So it's a way to set a highly ambitious climate goal to be net zero carbon emissions by 2040 and become part of the UN Race to Zero campaign. It's a cross-sectoral community, So it brings signatories together from all sorts of different industries, and they can work together on actions to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2040. You can join signatories like Salesforce, GSK, and Procter & Gamble. And the idea is that it's about taking action and working together with a large community of signatories to mainstream solutions to net zero across the globe. Then, in terms of the requirements, in some ways these are quite simple, but I'll take you through them and also give you a bit of context about what each means. So the first requirement is that a company reports regularly. And what that means is transparent reporting and measuring of progress on emissions reductions across scopes 1, 2, and 3. And the aim of this is to ensure that the companies signing up to the Climate Pledge are on track to reach net zero by 2040. And this is a different level of requirement. For a very large company might already be doing this. Smaller companies might have to work towards this, but the idea is that it's reporting transparently and publicly on scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. Then the other requirement is a plan for carbon elimination. So what the plan is to meet that net zero by 2040 target. Through real business changes, innovations, efficiency improvements, renewable energy, materials reductions, and lots of other strategies. So this is really a question about what a business joining is doing to meet that requirement of net zero by 2040. What are the tangible, real plans that they want to put in place? And the third requirement is around using credible offsets. So making sure that any offsets that you use, either now or towards 2040, are the right kind of offsets, the most credible, achieving permanent emissions removals from the atmosphere and having an effect within the time frame of the pledge. So in some ways quite simple requirements, but also stretching in terms of making sure you're doing tricky things like scope 3 reporting and have a real plan in place about how you'd achieve net zero by 2040. Then on how to join, it's a relatively simple process. They've got quick fact sheets and commitments and FAQs on their website that you can read and go through in more detail. There's a place where I've linked to fill out a form and indicate your interest. And as part of that, you enter some details around your company, its size, and what you do and some of your plans. And then a member of the team will reach out to you to have an initial conversation. Then as part of that, they would answer any of the questions you would have about the climate pledge. And they also might ask you some questions about your climate plans. So for example, they may ask you how you're planning to achieve net zero by 2040. And they might even drill down into what industry you're working in and what that, how that industry matches that plan. So it's sort of a conversation to see how ready you are to make that commitment and for you to get a lot more information about the climate pledge. Then with all that information, they do a review, and most of the time then you're in and part of the climate pledge. And at that point, you get put onto a cycle of how you announce. So they try to do very big announcements where they pull lots of companies in together and get really great impact. And then you start working alongside the other signatories as part of the climate pledge. And finally, I was going to tell you a bit about what to expect when you've joined. And I think really the thing to expect is a collaboration with highly ambitious companies of all sizes from all sectors. So really working together with all the different companies to try and move faster and inspire greater climate action. a place to share success stories and learn from other companies in that cross-sectoral environment. And you get to talk to some of those other companies, but also one of the things the Climate Pledge team are working on at the moment is building up the frameworks to allow companies to meet each other, work together and take action. So it's really going to be quite an exciting action community space. So that's a bit about the Climate Pledge. And then I'm going to go on and tell you a little bit about another initiative that we're part of, which is the SME Climate Hub. Now, the SME Climate Hub has a little bit of a different focus. It's all around small and medium-sized companies. And it was founded by us at the We Mean Business Coalition, Exponential Roadmap Initiative, the Race to Zero, and the International Chamber of Commerce. It's powered by Normative, who create carbon calculators. And one of our strategic knowledge partners is Oxford University and their Net Zero department. So it's really a collaboration of lots of different actors, all trying to put together the right support to help SMEs on their journey to net zero. And really the benefits of the SME Climate Hub is that it's a one-stop shop for SMEs to make a climate commitment and access best-in-class tools and resources. SMEs can struggle a bit more than larger companies, and this is mostly just because of the amount of time and resources they have within their companies, that it's very difficult for climate to be their #1 priority, or for them to have the same level of expertise that a big multinational company would have, because they don't have a department, they don't have consultancy budget, they don't have all the things that a multinational would spend their time building up. And we try to put together some of the tools to help SMEs and help resolve some of those problems and take learnings from the multinational companies and bring them to SMEs for free. So the SME Climate Hub is a way for smaller, medium companies to show climate leadership. So setting a credible climate commitment to be net zero by 2050 or earlier, becoming part of the UN Race to Zero campaign, and joining 2,500 SMEs and counting across 80 countries who have already made the commitment. It's also a place to access the tools you need to take action. And we aim for these to be free, high-value tools and resources designed to help and support SMEs as they start on their climate journey. And we have both tailored tools and resources that I'll talk about a bit more later, and also a tools and resources library that's a free set of tools and resources for anybody coming to the site. And we'll also be building a community of SMEs as part of the platform and the commitments in 2022. So we'll be building up that community feel and connecting SMEs together. In terms of the requirements, so the SME Climate Commitment is quite simple. It's to halve greenhouse gas emissions before 2030, achieve net zero before 2050. SMEs can pick whether they'd like to be net zero by 2050, 2040 and 2030. So far, the SMEs that have made the commitment have been very ambitious, and about 80% choose 2040 or earlier. And also to disclose progress on a yearly basis. So to disclose the basic progress around carbon emissions and what actions are being taken each year, so that you can see progress and see how the commitments are progressing. And then how to join is, again, quite a simple process. There's a commitment form on the SME Climate Hub website. You go, land, put in some details, click that you've made the commitment. That then sends you an email, and you get probably reviewed in the next 3 to 4 working days. And then hopefully everything's fine and you become part of the SME Climate Hub. And at that point, you get sent a welcome email and a login to your own area on the SME Climate Hub. And there is where you access the more tailored tools and resources that will be coming to the site over the next 2 months. And then what to expect once you've joined. Really, SMEs can expect to raise their voice by sharing their story. We try to profile really brilliant examples of SMEs taking action, so that we can show routes to how SMEs take action in different industries, in different countries, and of different sizes as well, because SMEs, the bucket of 0 to 500 employees is a big difference between a 2-person company and a company of 450 people. Then access, the next thing to expect is access to the tailored tools to help SMEs take action. And these are all coming to the SME Climate Hub in the next couple months for the most part. And the first one that will be coming is a carbon calculator. So when SMEs sign up, they'll put in their sector, their size, their country, and get a tailored carbon calculator that shows the average emissions of a business of their type in their country, just to get them started thinking about scope 1, 2, and 3 in measurement. And then in 2022, we'll make this into a carbon calculator where they can put then in their details and get a full picture of what their company's doing. We've got an education course to help define action, and that will be coming in the next month or so. And that will be 7 modules that allows an SME to look at different elements of their business. And so, for example, their supply chain or their operations, and think about how to take climate action in that area of their business, and make plans. I think that course is going to be really exciting, because about 61% of our SMEs struggle to have the right skills and knowledge to take the first step. So we're hoping this course will really help them on that journey. And then we're going to have other tools and support that's coming. So action modules next year, financial support, and a guide about how to access capital and financial support to take some of the bigger climate actions that you need to take. And then a SME reporting framework that's being designed by CDP, that's really designed to help make sure that we have SMEs reporting in a way that works for both the businesses, so that it's not too hard a stretch to report, and that we're asking for the right level of detail, but also for other stakeholders, like, for example, banks, so that they can see the progress that these businesses are making. And then there's also regular updates about key climate moments, new tools, opportunities, webinars, resources. So all those things come through on the SME Climate Hub newsletter. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing slides and talking you through all those things, but it was really great to give you an insight into how those 2 initiatives practically work. And then we can move on to the next session, where we start getting to know 2 great companies and their experience with these initiatives. So welcome, Mariana and Douglas. I wanted to give you both an opportunity to introduce yourself and your business. So Mariana, do you want to start with you to give us a bit of an introduction to you and to your company, Nude?
Thank you. Obrigada pelo convite. Eu cuido
Thank you for the invitation. I take care of sustainability and Nude. Nude is a food tech of products based on oat. We arrived in the market in December 2020. Original with calcium, cocoa, vanilla, and an original version for baristas. And in our sustainability strategy, we understood that facing climate crisis was our main challenge. The challenge that made everybody's heart in the team beat faster. And in this context, we took a lot of actions. We started mapping all of our supply chain related to many social and environmental aspects, but especially related to emissions of greenhouse gases. And with the carbon print of the products, we understood that it would be important to dialogue with the consumers and with other brands on environmental aspects. In all of our products and other packaging, we have the carbon footprint. Another initiative is that we were born neutral with neutral carbon. We have a mitigation plan as well. So we have been working with several fronts besides our public commitments. We are taking a commitment in the climate activism in the sense of our commitments with the stakeholders.
Amazing, thank you so much. And I'll also get Douglas to introduce yourself and your company, Zero Carbon.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Lydia and Sebeds, thanks for the invitation. I'm very glad to have this opportunity. I am the CEO of Zero Carbon. I have a doctorate degree in machine learning and also a postdoc degree in machine learning. And now I consider myself a serial entrepreneur and mainly in climate and energy, clean techs, I have been working with the past years. And throughout the years, I have been noticing the importance and the relevance to work with the climate change as fast as you can. Energy is one of the problems. So I see the data and I get concerned that you have to work as fast as you can. And Zero Carbon is a startup, is a different business model. So we have developed a business model that can provide for the end customers carbon offset of their purchase of everything online in the e-commerce. So we are a Brazilian company. So we have about over 200 affiliate companies, most of the biggest e-commerce companies in Brazil. And as you buy in those companies, you can go through our website. And if you click there, the company will give us the money as a commission for your buying. So for instance, you want to buy a shoes, we calculate it has a 40 kilos carbon footprint, and you buy the shoes, the company provides us 4% of the price as a commission. And if this commission, you buy credited carbon credits for United Nations and you make the offset for you for free. So we thought, okay, it's a very challenging idea. It was born when the first time in 2017, I decided to compensate my family in my own carbon footprint. So I discovered how to do it. I did it. I bought it from Amigo do Clima. That's the same ones that Nude is using. They are very close friends. And it was expensive. Sorry to say that. So I was happy because I have done the action, but I was sad because it was expensive. So you have to thought, okay, what can you do to make it cheaper? So we found a business model that make it for free because the marketing money is already there. They are using there in the social media and everywhere. So instead of paying the social media, if you buy using our website, the money comes to us and we forward most of the money for the climate actions. So this is our business model. And thanks again for the invitation.
No, thank you both for joining. It's wonderful to hear about your businesses and how they work. It's so nice to put real examples to some of these big global initiatives. And I wanted to start off by asking you both a question, which is, why did your business choose to set net zero goals through the SME Climate Hub? And what role should small businesses play in the race to zero? Mariana, do you want to start? And then we can hand over to Douglas.
Yeah, definitely, thank you. Okay, a gente entende que
we understand that it's very important to raise the awareness and educate about the climate change issues. It is also very important for us to work collaboratively, either with companies in the same sector or different stakeholders. And in this sense, these movements and initiatives are very important for us to communicate externally and take publicly the leadership on this agenda, but also to exchange, because everything is very new and there are countless challenges. And being part of this movement is important for us because, as it was said here, the challenges faced by these big companies tend to be a little different than the challenges taken by the small companies. Some of them are similar, but in terms of implementation of action plans and design of mitigation of climate actions, the companies tend to have a more intense exchange. That is very important for us to be a part of.
May I? The first thing in the day we have to tell to everyone, okay, you have joined the SME Climate Hub. The company was in a party, everybody was so happy and so glad. So it's impressive how much, especially this new generation, are concerned about the climate. So I don't believe it was a choice for us, or we decide to go through it. Yeah, you are a climate company, so it's more important. Otherwise, nobody wants to work for us anymore. So the first thing I say to everyone, you don't have this choice. And clearly, even if a small-sized company, a small business, or each one, you are living one of the biggest challenges of the human history. Certainly, the biggest challenge of my generation, if not the biggest challenge of all the human history, to take over the climate change. So it's a hope that everyone has to take part. As a small company, when you go through Sme Climate Hub, and probably you're gonna go deeper about it, having the tools that Lydia has just presented is very helpful, because now I'm following the subject and people talk about science-based target initiatives, and they have 10 people working as a staff to solve that. You don't have any people in the whole company. So you have to find another way, and this support is fundamental. As Mariana has just said, so it's a very nice moment to make networking. So certainly I'll find you all in LinkedIn. So try to find me as well. It's Douglas Vieira. I find Mariana. I find ways to cooperate. It's the only way for us to go. We are not playing against each other. You are playing together. So this is very important. It's the reason. And also, when you make these commitments public, I think it's very relevant. Any goals in your life that you make, you should make it public, because it make you easier for you to follow and make it easier for people to help you to follow your goals. So I'm very glad that this initiative exists. I didn't know. So when I say, okay, let's see what you can do for climate change, and to find it, and it was very nice to find. Thank you.
Aqui a gente está contando os desafios da vida
Here
real.
we're talking about the challenges of real life, of companies that are starting with this mindset. When we have this network of support where we can exchange the challenges and the experiences, this is a welcome, a support that's very welcome. I don't know if you all know, but the great goal of the Paris Agreement is achieving climate neutrality until 2050 and not exceeding over 1.5 degrees Celsius in temperature increase. This is a responsibility of the countries as international actors that need to reduce their emissions, but the countries are extremely dependent on the actions of its companies. That is why it's very important to take these net zero goals. And these goals, as Douglas said, should be science-based targets, which are based on science, as the name says. So it's no longer about saying you are net zero. For you to be net zero, there is a journey. It is a hard journey. It is possible, but it is the only solution. It is the alternative we have not to increase the temperature in the planet and to allow life on Earth. I'm very happy to hear what Douglas says. He's happy to have people to discuss these initiatives. He still has all of those challenges in the business as usual company, and he still has all of those initiatives. I'm sorry, Lydia, for chipping in with my comment. Lydia is going to continue conducting the conversation, and you can feel free to ask questions because we're going to answer to your questions from the audience as well.
No, of course, and jump in anytime. Really, it's wonderful to hear all the different actions being taken, and you both touched on it a bit at the beginning, but I thought it would be great to get you to tell us a little bit more about how your companies are working towards becoming net zero by 2040, because I think sometimes it seems like a very big challenge, especially if you're a company just looking at this and not necessarily having started on the journey. So maybe you can give a few insights into how each of your companies are working on taking action and achieving those net zero goals. Douglas, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. As Mariana says, business as usual, but with pocket money. So you have to find other ways to make it. The first thing, we have target to 2030. We thought that 2030 and 2050 is too far away for us, especially because you are a starting business. So we don't have to make so much changes. You have just to plan ahead and looking how we are impacting the environment before doing things. So you are growing, you can do this planning. So I consider you must have a short-term target instead of 10 or 20 years. So our target is 2030. The first step that has helped us was to have the information, and I was glad to see Lydia talk about the new tools that are going to be provided in the site. Of course, I believe that many aspects, if you have some expertise behind and software, you become easier. For instance, as you talk about energy, every country has its carbon footprint in energy, but you have to be expertise, have some expertise to go there, find where it is, understand the numbers. If you have a calculator, I just put, I have spent 100 reais, what is my carbon footprint? It would be great. In our case, I'll talk about that later. We have made our first focus on energy because it's my background. Since it's my background, I took advantage of that. There is some benefit, as I said, started a small company. It's a very simple operation. I can count by hands our suppliers. So I know what are our suppliers, I know how many people, everything, what they do. And one thing that's very important is involving people, your internal people, your supplier, your clients, your stakeholders in general. So if you want to become net zero by 2030, you have to involve people. So this was the first thing you have made. It talk to everyone. Are we together? Yes, everyone is together with us. All of our staff is together. Because at some point, all of us may have to make some strong commitment, not only me as the CEO, it's for everyone in the company. So the first thing I would suggest for the smaller companies, talking to everyone and make everyone join the commitments. Otherwise, it's going to be an empty commitment. If everyone is joining the commitment, they will start look for themselves, for the work they do and say, okay, I see a problem in here. This is not adequate. And if everyone is doing this as their routine, it becomes easier for us to map. I don't need one person that will come map all the company processes that they don't even know what is happening. So they'll ask the people that do it to say, okay, this is a problem. Otherwise, if everyone is committed, they say, okay, I have this problem. So make it transparent and help people to bring the issues. So this is how you are making. Other thing that you have made, but it's just by chance you have this opportunity. There are some big players that works about in the same process than us. So you have made some benchmarking because they have some information in the stock market. So if you have access for those kind of information, you look, you see how they make money. It's always good to see how richer people make money. What are the profits? So they say many things, some things about the environment, especially the companies that are looking for having money from abroad, a special type of finance. So we have made also benchmarking. So now this is the steps, the main steps you are looking the next steps to become net zero.
Amazing, thank you. And it's lovely to hear how you're getting all your employees involved and signed up. I can completely see that make a massive difference to implementing it within your organization. Mariana, do you want to tell us a little bit more too on?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Mariana, may I just about the employees? When you talk to them, you don't say carbon credits or 1.5 degrees increase. You say it's an environmental problem that you have to solve it. But I understand. My city is polluted. The river I used to swim is polluted. It's not easy to find the language. Just an interesting point. Probably while you're in this type of forum, you may talk about science targets and based things and other things. In the daily basis, is not exactly what is working for us. You have to say, okay, it's a problem. People understand the problem and may have some solution, but it's a simpler language you have to adapt in this case.
Yes, I can completely see that.
Lydia, sorry for interrupting you. Just so you know, we have some questions from the audience. When you want me to make them, just let me know, okay? Do you want me to make it now or later?
Why don't we hand over to Mariana for 1 second, just to get a bit more of an insight into how she's helping the company work towards net zero, and then let's go to some audience questions. That sounds great.
Thank you, Lydia. O passo inicial para a gente enfrentar.
The first step for us to face the climate issues is to understand and map all of the information. So we started by calculating the carbon print of all of our products in our supply chain and with the carbon inventory of the company. So we were able to develop a map, and we work based on this map. it didn't make sense to put a lot of effort in a very low emission volume. So we were able to identify that the greatest emissions from nude come from agriculture and logistics. It's not a logistics from nude of scope 1, it's a scope 3 logistic transportation from our providers, and we were able to implement pilot projects in these areas. And the great challenge for small companies is that the emissions are in the chain itself. So we are not speaking about switching a fleet of trucks or electrifying a fleet of trucks. We are talking about asking the supplier to have a electrified truck fleet. So it's not only an economic challenge, it's a political challenge of raising awareness, of educating this chain. So since we are acting today, we have 3 pilot projects one in the agricultural field, one with transportation, and the other with waste, so that we can understand from pilot projects how to reduce the emissions. I'm going to quote Giovanna, our founder. She says that a company that is born in 2020 cannot be born differently. So we were born carbon neutral. We neutralized the carbon credit before the emissions even started. So when I talk about the mitigation plan, I'm talking about the absorption of raw emissions, not liquid emissions that are zero.
Legal. Lídia, você quer que eu faça?
Very good. Lydia, would you like me to ask the questions right now?
A gente tem aqui perguntas
We
pro
have
Douglas.
questions for Douglas.
Então, Douglas,
So
a pergunta
Douglas,
quais
the question is, which companies in Brazil are
de
working
carbono no
with
e-commerce?
carbon credits in e-commerce? And then they ask us to share some companies' links so that they can know more about the different initiatives, and they are asking to better understand the solution of your company, Douglas. And I also have more questions, but for now, I think that's enough.
Então, até explicar pouco do modelo
Thank
de
you so much. I'm going to explain the business model. The e-commerce companies, all the big companies, they have this mechanism that is called affiliate marketing. What is this mechanism? We commission people who come from specific links. So when you have a YouTube channel, the person is presenting a pen, for instance, and they say, you may buy on this link. So this is a commissioned link. So you have this commissioned link, you click, you buy, and the YouTuber is going to receive the commission for that sale. And the stores, almost all of them, they have
Americanas, Fast Shop, Magazine
They
Luiza.
have that. Brazilian e-commerce such as Magazine Luiza, Centauro.
Ela já tem esses
more than 200 companies. They have this kind of programs, commissioning programs for sales. So we transformed this program into a sustainability program. So instead of selling pants, we are promoting environmental education. So people who follow us in the different channels, they are interested in environmental education and tips on how to cook in a sustainable way, how to make toys for kids, how to recycle. And they're going to make different toys, and they're going to buy toys as well. And when they buy, we're going to make available this link for them to purchase. And the different stores are going to send commissions to us. In terms of business model, we use an existing business model. So the money already circulates, and we use this business model to adapt that to the climate issue. And the commissions are used to buy carbon credits. Today we use audited carbon credits by the UN, and we have a calculator. We have all the purchase data, and due to privacy, we do the calculations that are engineered based. When we calculate 50% of neutralization. So if you go to www.zerocarbon.com.br, you're going to have to see 200 stores, and you may log in and you may click on the store, and after the purchase, you're going to receive the certificate of the carbon neutral purchase with the certificate that we were able to acquire with the UN. This is the process. Another question coming. You answered a little bit, but which tools do you use to bring this simple vision in the basis and the KPIs, the practical KPIs of the companies, and if the process is systematized in an RP? Could you repeat the beginning of the question? Which tools did you use to bring this simple vision of the base and translate them into practical KPIs? And if the process is systematized in an ERP? So, two questions. We have our internal part that is simpler, that with small companies, and we follow up the indicators, and for the final client we have this system that is an automated system that is sending and bringing information from different stores. When the purchase is made, the store sends the data to us, and we calculate the impact, and we calculate the impact automatically. So we don't have the complete ERP, we only have financial tools. And we are able to calculate with spreadsheets, and it's a very simple process. And the system was developed a system to follow up with different stores. Thank you. Now I have a question for Mariana. When you mention liquid zero emissions, that happen due to compensation actions or reduction of emissions? And does that include the scope number 3? Yes, that includes the scope number 3. So Nude is a small company. So the scope number 1 is something really meaningless. So yes, our assumption for carbon print includes agriculture, the trucks, the energy involved in the windmill, all those stages that are scope 3 stages, they are included in our calculations. Concerning emissions, we were able to neutralize before they started. So we had a prediction on production and sales. We started in December 2020. So we had a forecast for 2021 in terms of production and sales. And we neutralized with credits with this climate program with 40 tons of carbon equivalent, and we started to produce and sell, and fortunately we consumed all the forecast of sales in the first quarter. So it was a grateful surprise, but from the standpoint of emissions, we had to run and neutralize a greater volume using Amigos do Clima. So we entered their website and we were able to identify the certificates. And so we were born carbon neutral by the purchase of credits. in projects in Pará and the Amazon forest, but throughout the process, with all the chain mapped, we were able to identify improving points. For instance,
o local onde ela é
the
produzida e a
oatmeal
co-packer,
basis between the place it's produced and the place where it's packaged, it was transported with octagonal boxes that were disposable. So observing this emission, we were able to find a solution of a disposable compartment so that we could remove this emission from our carbon print. So we've been working with that, but we don't have a meaningful reduction of the raw volume because we have to make the company run to identify where to reduce emissions.
Obrigada. Eu entendo que eu peguei aqui por enquanto todas as perguntas do chat.
Thank you. I think I got all the questions from the chat. I'm going to pass the floor to Lydia for some considerations and take the time that we have with her for some other clarifications. And then I would like some final remarks from Douglas and from Mariana so that we can reach the conclusions.
No, thank you so much for having me and letting me talk to you about those two initiatives, and also for the wonderful conversation and examples, Mariana and Douglas. I think understanding how it works practically for other small companies really helps it seem like a more achievable goal to sign up to some of these big climate commitments. So really, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us your journey through to net zero and how you're thinking about it and working it into all the different elements of your business.
Obrigada, thank you, Lídia. Não, eu gostaria só de chamar a todas.
So I would just like to call the other companies to take a part in the coalitions and to manage the emissions, not only of CO2. And I would like to invite everyone to make more tangible this dialogue for the consumers and for people who do not have access to technical information. As Douglas said, we should translate these technical terms into not so technical language. That is the only way to advance in this agenda. We push a campaign of showing your footprint so that other companies show their environmental aspect, their environmental impact in their labels, so that the greenhouse gas emissions could be the next nutrition facts. They should show the nutrition facts and their environmental impacts on their labels so that we could walk together collaboratively.
Lydia, thank you again for the talk. We have also now 100% renewable generation by ourselves. Since you are a software company, it's one of our main impact. So as I said, I work with clean techs as well. So you have make our own evaluation of the impact based on the Brazilian grids. So you decide to go 100% renewable with solar panels. I'm telling that because it will be fully paid by 4 years. So it's if you have the money, of course, it's not that simple for small companies, but if you have the money, it may be a good business because it's cheaper energy. So when you talk about energy, it's more about how to make the transition because it's more efficient and cheaper. So how you can make the transition, not because it's hard after you have made, because after you have made, it becomes cheaper, it becomes more efficient. So you are now 100% renewable and if our own solar panels, our own generation. And I make a claim to SME and everyone. I fully understand that the relevance of having the science-based targets and everything. But if you want that the small companies and simple people to join, it has to be very simple. You have to have more focus on solving the problem, like we have made putting renewables, than to evaluate, to calculate, to do everything, because it's expensive. I know Amigo do Clima, I know it's from Way Carbon, it's a company from Belo Horizonte. We have worked together at some points. I know them very well, it's a very nice company, but if I small sized business, you want to focus just how can I help to solve the problem. So when I saw the initiatives Lydia was talking about, the calculator, the systems, everything that SME are willing to provide, to support, it's going to be very interesting and make it easier for most of people. So in this point, I would like our first to think, okay, the big companies and the governments, they have some level of responsibility and they have to provide for us the information and everything you need. And the small company just want to help. You want to go one step forward. So if the tools make for us a clear direction to go forward, for now is what we expect. So don't expect too much for us. It's hard to survive a small company. So every day you have to make the ends meet. So I'd like to say about it. And also, I think it's a challenge that SME should try to tackle as well. It's how to make the explanation and the language simpler. You are in Instagram, so since you are a B2C business to consumer, you have to talk to people. It's very hard to explain. If you ask me what is the biggest challenge of our company Zero Carbon, it's to explain to the clients what is carbon footprints, that you can use credits to compensate that. And this is the simpler part of the whole thing. I tell you, most of people, they don't know what's carbon. Just to start. So when you say about carbon, they think about food. They get confused. So this is what I would like to say for us to think, how can you make it simpler in a simpler language and accessible tools? If it becomes this way, more companies certainly they'll join because people, they believe it's important. They just don't know how to do it. Thank you.
Muito obrigada, Douglas, Mariana.
Thank you, Douglas. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Lydia. I think this was a very honest debate, very clarifying. You have the YouTube link with the websites of the companies for you to access. As Douglas said, you can interact through social media. I thank you for this partnership. It's very important that we are able, as Brazilian associations, to dialogue and find out what's happening abroad. I think we are at a correct direction, a very ambitious direction. Thank you very much. I hope to see you soon. And for those who are going to the COP, see you soon and a great travel to everyone. Have a great day.
Obrigado, pessoal.